أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم تر أن الله أنزل من السماء ماء فأخرجنا به ثمرات مختلفا ألوانها ومن الجبال جدد بيض وحمر مختلف ألوانها وغرابيب سود ومن الناس والدواب والأنعام مختلف ألوانه كذلك إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء إن الله عزيز غفور. We have been discussing verses 5 and 6 of Surah Annaba, which says, Alam najal arda mihadun wal jibala autada. So in this one, we were talking about the verse 6, in which Allah says, wal jibala autada, that it is connected with Alam najal. So it means that have we not made mountains as peg? So now we are talking about mountains during the last 4 or 5 videos, and today also we will be talking about mountains. In the previous videos, we have explained what are the blessings of mountains, why Allah created, and what are His blessings in this. And He has used this even as a punishment and also for blessings of human being. In addition to all those things, Quran has mentioned mountain in a different way, in a different form. And today it is a different style in which this mountain or jibal have been accepted, have been presented in Quran, that I have taken from Surah Fatir. In this, the mountain is expressed in a different way. The Surah Fatir says, Alam tara anna Allah anzala minas samai ma'an فأخرجنا به ثمرات مختلف ألوانها. That do you not see that Allah sends down rainwater from the sky and we bring forth thereby a variety of fruits of different colors. Then next, ومن الجبال جدد بيض وحمر مختلف ألوانها وغرابيب سود. In the mountains also there are streaks, white and red and black, with different hues. And likewise, here the mountain has been mentioned in this way. In the mountains also there are streaks, white and red and black with different hues. So this is the main thing which I selected this verse, because the mountains have been mentioned here in a different way. So to understand what is the difference, we have to go through the other next verse also. The next verse says that وَمِنَ النَّاسِ وَالدَّوَّابِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهُ. The fact is that only those of His servants, and likewise men, beasts and cattle also have different colors. كذلك إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء إن الله عزيز غفور. The fact is that only those of His servants who possess knowledge fear Allah. Surely Allah is Almighty, all forgiving. These are the two verses. In the first verse, Allah has mentioned about mountain, and in the second verse, He has mentioned about the beasts, men, beasts, and cattle. The dawab, anam, and nas, annas, and dawab, wal anam. in all these things, what is common? And in the first verse, it was about the variety of different colors. Fruits of different colors. So here, fruits and mountains and cattle and human beings and beasts, all these have been mentioned in this verse. And what for? Just to show that they have different colors. So this difference of colors Allah is presenting here in the sense that you think about why there is a difference of colors. Among all these examples, the example of fruit and human being and beast and cattle, all of them you find different colors. Allah has created them in different colors. Allah is pointing out the colors and also mountains, different colors. So this position of showing why they are different colors, later on it goes to the إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء, that the fact is that only those of his servants who possess knowledge fear Allah. This is the conclusion. But about this conclusion, we will speak in next video. But the point is that what for Allah has mentioned the rainwater and that only one same rainwater is there. But as a Summa alam tara anna Allah anzala minas samai man. Allah is having rainwater, sends down rainwater, but as a result, فَأَخْرَجْنَا بِهِ, what happens? Samaratum mukhtalifan alwana. The fruits come with a variety of colors. And not only fruit, now we come mountain, I mean al-jibal. And also mountain come, and Allah has mentioned three colors, streaks of white, red and black, with different hues. So this difference of color is mentioned here, that the rainwater is same for all the mountains, for all the fruits, but when the fruits come out, they all have different colors. There are many other differences, but Allah is showing colors. And for the same thing again, he is saying about the human being and beast and cattle, that they are not the result of rainwater. Therefore, this has been mentioned in a different way. So this is all the difference of color it means. Maulana Maududi has expressed it in this way, that this is meant to impress that in the universe created by Allah, nowhere is there homogeneity and uniformity. There is variety everywhere. From the same earth and by the same water, I mean the same rainfall, different kinds of trees are appearing. Different varieties of fruits are appearing, which we can know by their colors. Even the two pieces of fruit of the same tree are not uniform in color and size and taste. In the same mountain, one will see a variety of colors and a great difference in the material composition of its different parts. So the different colors of mountains, different colors of fruits from the same waterfall, this is a unique. Everything is unique. This whole verse speaks about unique. And this uniqueness is proved by the DNA. So about this DNA, I show you one video now, And since it will become long, I will explain about the DNA and about the uniqueness which is mentioned here in the next video next week. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Please see the video and you'll understand what is DNA. Then I will continue in the next week. Thank you very much.
Although Mendel figured out the laws of inheritance, which were an important part of the puzzle, he didn't have the technology to be able to examine and explain how genes work at the cellular level. So what exactly is a gene, and where is this genetic information that is being passed down stored or located? Before we can understand the mechanisms of evolution, we must understand how genetic information is transmitted from generation to generation and how this process generates the variation so critical for natural selection and evolutive work. That is, how genetic variation occurs. The field of molecular biology, or genetics, have given scientists the pieces of the puzzle that Mendel and Darwin could not in their time. Genes are essentially stretches of the DNA molecule that carry the instructions for building a living thing. And a useful analogy to think of here is DNA as a blueprint. And just as you build a house from the foundation up, DNA is like the foundation of building a living thing, and it contains all of the instructions for doing so. To see where genes are located, we can reference this visual of a cell. And all of the genetic material, all of our DNA, lies within the nucleus of the cell, which is that dark purple part in the very center. And the DNA is stored on the chromosomes, that X-shaped feature right there on the outside of the cell, which is giving you an up-close look of what the chromosomes are made of, which are coiled strands of the DNA molecule. And it's within these coiled strands, these chromosomes, that all of our genetic information is stored, and it carries out all of the genetic and cellular activity. It directs all the activities of the cell, all from those chromosomes and the DNA. In order for the genetic information or instructions to be carried out, DNA has to do two things. First, it must direct protein synthesis, that is, the production of proteins, and it must be able to make copies of itself to replicate so that it is present in each and every cell and can be passed down from generation to generation. The structure of DNA allows it to accomplish both of these tasks. The DNA molecule is shaped like a double helix, resembling a twisted ladder. The side rails of the ladder are formed by chains of sugars and phosphates, and the rungs going across are composed of linked pairs of chemical bases that connect the side rails. And these chemicals are known by their initials A, T, C, and G. A and T and C and G have complementary shapes that fit together perfectly to form the rung. These four chemical bases are like letters in a four-letter alphabet, and just as we arrange letters to form meaningful words, these chemical bases that make up our genes are arranged into three-letter words called codons. Each codon or word creates a specific amino acid, and then these amino acids combine together to form a certain protein. So each gene is like a sentence made up of a particular order of words to tell the cell to manufacture a particular protein. And these proteins determine what an organism will look like. Just as the blueprints determine what a house will look like when all the components are put together, DNA serves as the blueprint for constructing a living thing. Proteins are like the engineers that carry out the instructions called for or coded for by the DNA. In order to be passed down from generation to generation, each and every cell has to contain all of the genetic information necessary to build and maintain the cells of the body. So DNA has to make copies of itself in every cell. Because the four chemical bases will only pair or link up with their complementary opposite, A with T or C with G, it's fairly easy to see how the DNA molecule self-replicates. In order to make a copy of itself, the two strands of the latter separate or split into two halves. Where there is the missing information, the DNA molecule rebuilds itself on the other side. So where there is an A, there will be a T. Where there is a C, it adds in the G. This whole process of DNA making copies of itself occurs every time the regular cells of the body, like skin cells or bone cells, divide and replicate. Humans are made of millions of cells, and these cells are constantly dividing and replicating in our bodies. This is how bones grow as we develop, or how skin heals itself after a cut. And every normal human cell, or somatic cell, with a nucleus, except the reproductive cells, contains 46 chromosomes, which carry all of the genetic information for the cell and for the organism. The number of chromosomes an organism has is species-specific. Chimps, for example, have 48. Dogs have 78. An algae has 148 chromosomes, so having more chromosomes doesn't necessarily make you a more complex organism. So humans have 46, which actually consist of 23 pairs. One of each pair is from the mother and one from the father. During the process of mitosis, then, each time a cell divides and replicates, that is, makes a copy of itself, the genetic material, or DNA, is also copying itself. It is passed on to each new cell during mitosis. The cells produced, or the copies produced during mitosis, are known as diploid, meaning they contain a full set of chromosomes, the full 46, that are needed for the somatic cells to function and maintain the body. In sexually reproducing organisms, like humans, however, the cells that participate in the reproduction of an individual are known as the reproductive or sex cells. Sperm in males, eggs in females, are produced through a different process known as meiosis. These reproductive cells are called gametes, and it is in the gametes that the genetic information from the father and the genetic information from the mother is contained. During reproduction, these specialized sex cells, these gametes, join together to form a zygote, a fertilized cell. Since it takes 46 chromosomes to make a human, each gamete can only contain 23 chromosomes, that is, half the genetic material from the parent. If each gamete or reproductive cell had a full set of chromosomes, meaning the full 46, then the zygote, once it was fertilized, would have twice the number of chromosomes. Through this process of meiosis, the production of gametes, it's entirely random which alleles from the parent's genotype will wind up in those reproductive cells. That's what we're representing when we're putting one allele from the genotype into one box in the Punnett square and the other allele into another box. Which alleles from the parents will recombine during this process of sexual reproduction is entirely random, and this is what helps to generate variation, as these new recombinations produce uniquely different genotypes, which in turn produce new phenotypes in the offspring. Well, Mendel provided the basics for the laws of inheritance, and molecular biology provided the basics about gene structure and function. Modern genetic studies have revealed that the DNA molecule and our genes are much more complex than we ever realized or appreciated. So new understandings of DNA, of gene structure, gene function and regulation, and gene expression are telling us that there are a lot more variables involved in getting from genotype to phenotype, and that genes are part of a larger, more flexible network than we ever really realized. For example, the position of the chromosomes within the nucleus of a cell can affect the activity of the genes and the expression of the genes. So just location within the nucleus of the cell can have an impact on genotypes and phenotypes. We're also learning that genes respond to our experiences. That is, external environmental inputs can actually affect the expression and activity of our genes. Now, in a way, that flexibility, that responsiveness to outside influences is really useful for survival because it means our genes are more flexible and it gives us more opportunities for adaptation. Click on the title The Epigenome at left to see a short animation.
DNA contains the instructions for building all the parts of the body. But DNA is only half the story. The DNA in our bodies is wrapped around proteins called histones. Both the DNA and histones are covered with chemical tags. This second layer of structure is called the epigenome. The epigenome shapes the physical structure of the genome. It tightly wraps inactive genes, making them unreadable. It relaxes active genes, making them easily accessible. Different sets of genes are active in different cell types. The DNA code remains fixed for life, but the epigenome is flexible. Epigenetic tags react to signals from the outside world, such as diet and stress. The epigenome adjusts specific genes in our genomic landscape in response to our rapidly changing environment.